Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the very first session of Reclaiming Agency 3.0. It's our third of the series that we've been running over the last 3 years, where we bring people together under the theme of reclaiming what some of us might have believe been taken away from us. And so today, with the very, very first session, we addressing particularly the business community and talking about how business survives and thrives during times of crisis. So we're very excited that this is also the very first time that we are running a hybrid session. We would normally live stream these events only. Today, we're absolutely thrilled that our guest, facilitator, speaker will have a small audience from our campus in Sandown. So a warm welcome to everybody who's online from Cornerstone Institute, as well as to everybody who's in the auditorium with us here today. This is very exciting. Please take note of the rest of the program. It will all be flashed on the screen, the entire program for the next 3 days, and we look forward to your involvement in those sessions as well. Without any further ado, let me introduce you to our guest, Alberto Jordan. We're very, very thrilled that Alberto could join us here today for this masterclass. Alberto is the founder and chief executive officer of govchat.org, the official citizen engagement platform for the South African government. Alberto Jordan is a former ministerial special advisor and served as an advisory board member at Mixit. Alberto currently serves as digital communications advisor to various African governments and is a United States of America Department of State IVLP alumni. A very warm welcome to you, Alberto, and thank you very much for making the time to be with us today. The platform's yours.
Good morning, everyone. It's a huge, huge honor for me to spend some time with you. This is very new for me. Lockdown has had us, I think, over the lockdown period, I've probably done about 20 webinars. And so this experience, this intimate experience, having you hear me speak, but also speaking to you watching this is really, really new again. I've spoken to many audiences around the world, but it just feels different. It feels new that I can interact with people, see your expressions, and really, really great to be able to feed off of that and not just speak into a camera, which is what I'm used to now for the past 8 months. Just a bit about where I come from, just a bit about the GovChat journey. Many of you would remember a social media platform called Mixit. Mixit, still today, I believe, is possibly the most successful and largest story coming out of the African continent from a messaging point of view. Many of you met your girlfriends and boyfriends on the Mixit platform. I know some of you got married on the Mixit platform, and so really, really great messaging platform. Was around for about 10 years. I was part of the Mixit team that founded that successful platform. We probably had about 88 million registered users in 120 countries, doing 1 billion messages every single day. This is way before WhatsApp, way before Facebook, but more importantly, born in the high schools of Mitchell's Plain, a few minutes away from where we are in Milnerton currently. A technology company that had a social impact a goal, making sure that citizens of this country and around the world can interact with one another in a very cost-effective manner. Obviously, back then, the only means of communication through text was SMS, and obviously Mixit was able to provide an alternative to SMS, which was this data light messaging platform. Now, while I was at Mixit, I was in charge of looking after the relationship between citizens at Mixit and the South African government, and did two very successful mobile applications at Mixit. The one was for the African National Congress, and the other one was for the South African government, really just trying to understand whether there was appetite for young South Africans aged between 18 and 35 to engage with them. And what we found out very, very quickly, that it wasn't national government issues that Mixit users wanted to engage with government with. It was actually local government issues. So issues around access to water, issues around access to electricity, housing, those were the issues that young people wanted to chat to government with. More importantly, we found out that about 80% of young people did not know who their public representatives were. Really, really shocking. So, you know, we all have about, we've possibly got about 10,000 public representatives in this country. 80% of South Africans did not know or do not know who those are. So if you're coming from Balha or from Mitchell's Plain and you're in a ward, majority of people don't know who their public representative is. And for me, that was pretty shocking. Now, when Mixit closed down in 2015, in fact, just before that, I was in the US. The US government had me over in Washington on a IVLP program, wanting to understand the success story of Mixit in a African continent context. Had a great time in the US, lots of learning from my side, but a lot of learning from the US government side as well. But on my way home, I found out that Mixit was closing down. And I needed to decide what is my next move. Many of you will also know that I am a former ministerial special advisor. Social or state-owned enterprises is what I know really, really well, and decided to use my expertise in the public sector, but in technology as well, and create a very simplistic platform called GovChat that allows citizens to engage with the South African government, specifically at a local government level. It was a noble idea back then in 2016. I had no funds. All that I had was a concept and idea. And as you know, with the entrepreneurial journey, and is it Sasmith that is here? Sasmith that is doing an amazing work around SMMEs and small businesses, would testify to the struggle around small businesses in accessing funding to start businesses. If you look at developed countries like the US, you will know that the Americans will not allow you to waste their money. You will need to start a business at least 3 times, show that there is learnings from that, and every time that there's a learning, you'd be able to be better. But they are not going, when you go to a VC, they are not going to allow you to come to them with this great idea, but have you waste their money. They want you to go through the learnings of entrepreneurship on your own, and then come to them to kind of ask for funding. Now, I did not have funding. I did this all on my own. In fact, I need to be really grateful to my mom, because my mom gave me my first break, which was, I think, 3,200 Rand, which she saved up. I did not have a platform, I did not have technology, but I had this concept, and if you do research on the internet, there are a lot of plug-and-play models that you could use to test a concept. I didn't have funds to go and build a big mobile application. You need millions of rands to build mobile applications and have technology. But my mom saved money for a period. At that time, I had nothing. In fact, during this time, before I was using my own funds, but when I lost everything, I needed to move back into my mom's place. My daughter was suspended from school, and I did not know what I was going to do. And the three of us needed to move back to Baja in a room after being married for 12 years, not knowing how I'm going to make it or provide for my family. But the goal was always to understand what my purpose was. And for those of you that is trying to take on a entrepreneurial journey, please make sure that you don't do it for money. Make sure that you are doing what you're doing because it's your purpose. We are all here for a reason. And I believe that if you tap into why you are here, the biggest battle is already won. Then the rest is semantics. The rest you can figure out. But a lot of the times people do things for the wrong reasons. Now, even though I lost it all, and even though I was back at home at my mom's place, I never gave up. I was true to my purpose. There were many people that tried to take advantage of myself, of the relationships that I have. I won't mention any names, but after receiving an agreement from the South African government to assist them with this concept around GovChat, a platform that is able to help government and citizens engage with one another, just as a concept, a big JSE-listed company came to me and offered me, I think it was 700,000 rand, and I needed to walk away because they wanted the piece of paper that the South African government gave to me. Now, when you're struggling, you don't have anything, 700,000 rand can be a lot of money, right? My wife said no. And I was like, babe, are you really saying no to this? She says, don't do this for money. The second company that came forward offered me 6.5 million rand. But they wanted to control the entire narrative. And we said no. Because their intention was to make money. And that was not my intention for starting GovChat. The intention was to be able to link South African citizens and government and make it easier for citizens to engage with government. So things like queues that you see at Home Affairs, things like queues that you see at the traffic department shouldn't take place in a modern era when there's technology that can make those things easier. And so I said no to the second company that came forward wanting to buy me over. And again, I need to just, I reflect and I go back when it is in a very difficult time, when your daughter is suspended from school, and after 3 months she's asking you, Daddy, when am I going back to school? And I'm saying, but the holiday is not over. And not knowing how you're going to tell her, but I don't have funds to have you to go back to school, because private schools are expensive, right? Out of nowhere, someone that was watching the work that I was doing called me up. He saw a lot of the things that I was posting on LinkedIn, and called me up and said, hey man, I like what you're doing. Do you need any help? And I said, no, I'm done. After a long, long journey and not being able to provide for your family, I don't think that there's any gesture that anyone can come forward and help me with. He said, well, here's $1 million, 10 million rand. See if you can take that concept and turn it into something tangible. 11 months later, a JSE listed entity came forward and gave me 20 million rand. If my maths is correct, so within 12 months, 30 million rand. Immediately after that, ABSA comes forward and they provide sponsorship of 10 million rand, so 40 million rand in 12 months. After losing it all, after not being able to provide and literally giving up. I will get into what GovChat has done shortly, but for those of you that is taking on this crazy journey of entrepreneurship, there's 3 pieces of advice that I'd like to give you. The first one I've spoken about is do not chase money. Stick to your purpose. That is for me is the first goal. The second one is make sure you marry the right person. It's a very lonely journey out there. For me, I compare entrepreneurship to a jail sentence. Because jail will make or break you, and you're on your own, right? No one's with you. And that is what, a room 4x4 will do to you. It will break you. And so entrepreneurship will break you, and you need to have the balls to really understand why you are doing this. And then the final thing is, don't take no for an answer. Even though we've been really successful, and I'll talk a bit about what we were able to do in the last 8 months, is now that we are a successful story after a long trial and a lot of, tears, people are jealous of the success. And so it's important to hold on to those that believe in what you do. You cannot do this on your own. You need partners. Luckily, with what I've decided and what I've chosen is I've decided to balance young people in my team with I won't say old people because my chairman will disown me when I say old people. My chairman is 80 years old. He is the founder of Netcare, an amazing man. But I lean a lot on him. I speak to him at least 5 times a day. Before I came here, we were at least on the phone for 4 times. I know there's another call that I have later on with him. But I bounce a lot of these things, a lot of ideas, there's a lot of learnings that you can take from wisdom, because as entrepreneurs, we make a lot of mistakes, things that we can avoid. And so mentorship and experience of those that have made it before is important. There's a lot of learnings there. Guys like Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates will tell you the exact same thing. They have not done it on their own. If I look at politicians, and I'd like to, my esteemed colleague from Old Mutual will know Trevor Manuel very, very well. If you look at Trevor Manuel's success over many, many years, he did it with a very lean team. I think there were 3 people in his team. Today you have government departments and ministers having teams of people. And he showed that if you have a lean team, a credible team, open, transparent team, people that can do the job, as a team we can make this country work. He's the longest serving finance minister, I think for 20 years. A success story of note. but he makes it clear that it is his team that was able to take the country where he was able to take it in a very difficult time, in a very dark time. So teamwork is possibly one of the most important factors of success. You cannot, as entrepreneurs, you cannot do it on your own. Try to find people, try and find the best people to help you on your journey to make it work. Let's talk a bit about GovChat quickly before I take questions. Many of you are going to ask, where can I download GovChat? And so I want to tell you, you cannot download it anywhere. We believe not in building mobile applications just as yet for two reasons. The one is the cost of data in this country is still an expensive thing. And so if you think going to build technology needs a mobile app, I can tell you now that you are wrong. The second thing is majority of mobile phones in this country are Android phones, and they come with a limited space. And they come with preloaded mobile applications, messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. And citizens are not going to delete WhatsApp for your mobile application. So what GovChat did was it created technology that integrates into messaging platforms that you already have on your mobile phone, like WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger. So all you'll do is you'll add GovChat as a contact, like you would add your family members, your husband, your wife. Some have wives and girlfriends. I hope that was a joke. And so, same strategy. You would add it as a contact, and you can start engaging with the South African government. Today, GovChat has 5 million users on the platform, making it the largest citizen engagement platform, I believe, not just in South Africa, but on the African continent. Now, before the pandemic, we possibly had a few thousand people on the platform, but we were able to adapt the technology for a pandemic. When I got, on the 2nd of May, I got a call from SASSA to say that they had some challenges, and the president made an announcement for a billion rand economic stimulus package, and part of that package is to provide social relief of distress grants to those that are in distress, those that are unemployed. Now, the normal way to apply for a grant in this country is to go to a SASSA office or to a post office, fill out a form, there's a screening application, and you would hopefully qualify, and then you would be able to get those funds. Through COVID, you cannot do that. In fact, today we have 18 million grant recipients in this country. Now, what GovChat then did was it decided to digitize the entire application process for SASSA. In the first week, we had more than 2 million applications that we were able to process. To date, we have processed about 4.6 million applications on behalf of SASSA, sending that through. It was an important thing for us to get right, and we've done it with amazing partners like AWS, like Synthesis, Capital Appreciation, that was able to come together to show that what we were talking about and what I was talking about in 2015 around advocating for digitizing government processes, even though I was talking about it with government and to government in 2015, it was only realized in 2020 because of a pandemic. I'm on record, and I will say it again, COVID-19 for the ICT sector is a blessing. Because what we've been advocating for, technology being able to make it easier for citizens to interact with government, whether it be digitized government processes, whether it is getting your birth certificate at Home Affairs, applying for a visa, or by not needing to stand in a queue to renew your driver's license, you can do that through technology. And so I believe that we can continue doing that for government, and not just in South Africa, but for governments on the African continent. We've obviously also helped the Department of Health. As you know, that the President announced that our WhatsApp line was the platform to be used to get your COVID-19 test results, whether you went to a private institution like Pathcare or Ampath, or whether you went to Tygerberg Hospital or to Grooteskier. So GovChat was the first platform that was able to integrate public and private medical labs, testing labs into one. For me, I'd like to say it's the first use case for NHI in this country using technology. And within, I'd say 24 hours, within 12 hours, through our technology, we are able to issue you with your test result over our platform. If I would tell you what it used to take, the time in which it used to take in the public sector to get a test result, I would say 5 days. Today we can do it within 12 hours. Not needing for you to go into a hospital, you can do it on your mobile phone. Similar to the amount of municipal service requests that we were able to handle on behalf of citizens and integrate them into all 257 municipalities. There are institutions currently, and I won't mention their names, that doesn't want to see that. There are institutions that is trying to fragment government by wanting a mobile number for every service of government. Now, for me, it's not practical. Today, we have 257 municipalities. We have 10,000 public representatives. We have 4,300 wards. We have hundreds of state-owned enterprises in this country. Imagine from a citizen's point of view, a citizen must have a number for every government service. It's not practical. Let's talk about gender-based violence. There is 27 hotline numbers for gender-based violence in this country, trying to do the exact same thing. We need to address that, and we can address that with technology. I believe that we should be moving to one platform for government where you can get all of government services on one platform, making it easier. We are in South Africa. We are not in the US where it's a federal state, where New York is different from Washington and Washington is different from Dallas. This is a unified country where we move between the Eastern Cape, the Western Cape, without needing to do anything. We can just go over those internal borders. So I believe that we should have one platform for all of government services. And technology is the way that we can do that. Again, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak to you a bit about what we do in a very, very difficult time. It's a massive, massive honor, and I'll gladly take questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. Sure.
If you could just repeat the question that's
Great.
asked so that the online viewers know.
Gladly. Gladly. So just the question again, if for the viewers that didn't hear, how did GovChat adapt to a COVID-19 setup differently than what we did before? If I'm not mistaken on that question. Agreed. I think with leadership, it's important to be able to understand the resources that you have, the skills that you have, and how it not just impacts your team, but how it impacts their surroundings. So remember, when you employ someone, you don't just employ their skill, you employ their family, their children, their situation at home. And so it's important to take all those things into account. I can tell you now that even though our technology team, because we have various teams, we have a technology team through Synthesis, our technology partner, but we also have a very close executive team that is able to look at the challenges of government in a pandemic and then every day work through those challenges. Now, I can tell you now that whenever the president came forward to engage with the South African public around a response, around advocating for wearing a mask, being responsible, GovChat was listening very, very closely to what he's saying and looking at how the technology that we've built over a 4-year period could adapt to what he was saying. How can technology very quickly adapt and help what the president was trying to achieve? So it's important in a COVID-19 space to be agile. You cannot go with a fixed scope. Those of us in technology will know fixed versus agile. Now, from a funding point of view, it is great to go on a fixed scope because you know what the end goal is, right? And so you have to work towards that. What we're saying, you don't actually know what the end goal is. You can only build as far as you can see. And so from a leadership point of view, we needed to make sure that what we are building addresses what the president and the country and government needs. So when the president announced the stimulus package, this economic stimulus package, we were the first to put up our hand to say, we have technology that can help you in having citizens not needing to go to a SASSA office or to a post office, and that we can adapt the technology to do this online. Similar with COVID-19 test results. Similar with doing screening. So it's important to look at what you have from a skills point of view again, and really just be agile in the way that you build moving forward. And that has really, really helped us. If we didn't build the structure of GovChat, I can tell you now, even though our hearts were there, there was no way that we were going to be able to help the South African government in a time of a pandemic. Technology is expensive and it takes a long, long time, especially when you need to build from scratch. When you use plug-and-play models, if it is for an audience of 5 or 10 people, then it can work. But when you're talking about millions of people, we have 59 million people in this country. When you need platforms that you need to handle scale, you have to have the right technology. And so infrastructure is an important thing. And so we are really, really blessed that we have seen this, not the pandemic, but we've seen the future a few years ago, and we could adapt really, really quickly and be agile to adapt that technology for a COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you.
Just testing the mic. Is everything okay? Thank you. I've got quite a few questions, and I see the hands raised in the room as well, so just to make sure that everyone's question does get asked. I've got one here that says, how do we close the gap between those without access to technology and communication with the government?
So I think simplicity is key there. We cannot just create technology over mobile applications. you take any big corporate in this country, a bank, a telco, and you compare their subscriber base to their app downloads. It's poor. Right? So that's why we didn't build the app. You're wasting your time and you're wasting money. If you look at rural areas that don't even have smartphones, USSD is a very important feature. I will tell you now that we have more mobile phones than people in this country. So access to mobile is not the issue. Access to data is an issue. And so you have to build systems that is either zero rating, that you can zero rate, or that easily plugs into government systems. And so I believe that mobile applications is not necessarily the way to go. I think that citizens have app fatigue, and I think that things like progressive web applications, which is literally a native web app, so it feels like a mobile app, but it's on a website, is the way to go. So those of you that are thinking of building technologies for masses, start thinking about web mobile applications that feels like an app, but it's not an app. It's actually an interactive website that does the exact same thing. It's just you don't need lots of data to download it, and you don't need space on your phone to download it, because besides cost of data being a challenge, the space on your mobile phone is a challenge. There's a reason why phones cost 300 Rand, a smartphone 300 Rand or 500 Rand, because of space. You can interact with them and it can work as my iPhone does, but from a space point of view, the speed and all those type of things is not there, and that's why they are so cheap. And so, again, cost of data and the space on your mobile phone is a big challenge, and so try to build on USSD, because whether you have a smartphone or whether you have a feature phone, you can still access the platform. And then mobile web applications definitely is, for me, the replacement to mobile applications. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I've got a question from in the room.
Sure.
Hi. I was just very interested in terms of the GovChat program in terms, normally government, they act in silos. And I think that's the biggest problem that a lot of businesses and citizens have. And as you mentioned, all the different structures that you have to go through. How did you overcome that in terms of GovChat to get them all on board to be able to bring the people to them? I mean, it must have been a huge task to bridge all of those silos, because of course you find a lot of competition and people wanting to, show their power in those particular areas.
Agreed. There's no short story. There is no quick fix to success. It took me 4 years to get to where I am, because yes, I could go and I could use my relationships, and I could have probably done this in 6 months. But in government, there are processes and there's protocol, and you have to respect those. There are many private companies, international companies, thinking that they can come to this country and flaunt those processes. I have been, in many times, reached out, companies have reached out to me to say, we can do this, but we need this and that and that. And not once did my name appear in a state capture commission, in parliament or parliamentary commission, because I did it the right way. There's only one way. There's the right way. And I think that government departments, ministers, cabinet ministers, government officials know that of Alberto Jordan. And so they know that I will do the right thing, and I don't mind waiting and being patient for the right thing. Those quick fixes in life are not a sustainable model. And maybe I lost it because of time, lost everything because of time, but I can sleep at night. And so the silos, unfortunately, is a challenge, but in time you can break those silos. I think if you look at what the president is ultimately saying, and if I look at if I read between the lines, he's calling for a government that is a capable state. What does that mean? And you'll hear him speak about public-private partnerships over and over and over. And so for me, the challenges that we have in government, for me, should be an opportunity for the private sector to come in, not take over what government's mandate is, but to assist them in skills, in mentorship, and showing them how we can make things work. There is room for the private sector in the public sector. And so public-private partnerships is necessary now more than ever before. And so I believe what the president is asking for is important. And so there isn't a shortcut in breaking those silos. For me, it's about a relationship. Government has to trust you. Everyone has an idea. I think my blessing was that I didn't come to government and say, I have an idea, but it's going to cost you X, Y, and Z. Today, we have spent 50 million rand of private sector funding, not asking government for a single cent. I didn't know how I was going to do it. But it must say something. And so I think that to answer your question, it is relationships, and government needs to trust that the intention of why you want to partner is for impact, not just about, yes, people must, cover their, make money, they need to cover their expenses, we need to live. But at the end of the day, what is the intention of that? And so, again, I think that public-private partnerships definitely is the way to go. You have a president currently that understands that. Before, it was very, very different, right? I'm not going to mention names. But I think with the president that we have, he understands that government cannot do it on its own. We need the private sector. We need civil society. We need NGOs to come on board and take this country to the next level. Thank you.
Thank you so much. A question from online from Dylan DeWitt. He asks, do you think government in this country is doing enough to endorse and stimulate the growth for these digital platforms that you speak of?
I will say no, but I think government is on the right track. They're on the right track because they are partnering with various digital entities to help them make it easier. If that wasn't the case, then I would say no completely, but I'm saying that we're on the right trajectory. We're on the right path. Government is on the right path. Let's take SASSA for a use case. In 2018, SASSA was under administration. Today, it has a clean audit. Leadership makes organizations happen. So before, I believe the management at the post office and at SASSA was really, really poor. Today, you see a SASSA that is turned around, not under administration, being able to pay over 171 billion rand per annum without needing the help of anyone. And so I definitely think that it is leadership and management that is the game changer around state-owned enterprises. And if we have the right leadership, sure, you can make things happen like anything. Okay.
Thank you. Just to let all the viewers online know that we do have quite a few questions and we will try our best to get to everyone.
Sure.
If I could please ask Deirdre to come to the front to ask a question. Thank you.
Hi. I just wanted to ask, for the normal man on the street, in terms of access, right, to to know about the app, because for me also, I mean, I know the name of the app, but not really familiar with the app.
Sure.
But to reach the normal man of the street, and bearing in mind the limitations in terms of access to data, specifically surfing the web and so forth, what is the focus of GovChat in terms of marketing? And I'm not even talking about websites, government websites, because of course I hear you say that we're on the right path, government is on the right path, but we're also way behind. So in terms of the website being more off than on, what is your focus in terms of marketing GovChat? Because I believe that although you have a lot of people on knowing about it, there's not a lot of people using the app, because just the name government itself give a negative connotation to the normal man of the street and to technology users. Thank you.
So, thank you for the question. I will differ with you a bit around not many people having access or using the platform. We have just over 5 million users on the platform. We do about 500,000 messages a day on the platform, accessing services of grants, accessing services of healthcare, accessing services of being able to report municipal issues, whether it is a water pipe that has burst, electricity issues, sewage issues, refuse removal, or even just the basic thing about dropping a pin on WhatsApp through GovChat and finding out who your public representative is, or going to any of the 63,000 public spaces that GovChat has mapped out and rating your experiences at those institutions, whether you're at Home Affairs, whether you're at a school, whether you're at a post office, or even at a creche. We are able to distinguish the public service from public infrastructure. Now, when I was at Mixit, we never marketed Mixit at all. We had 88 million users that was organically on the platform. If you go and you market a platform, a social media platform, and you take platforms like WeChat that have spent, and I'm going to take WeChat Africa, not WeChat in China, WeChat Africa. If you look at the amount of money they've spent in marketing compared to the amount of people that have uploaded the app as an engagement platform, the return on investment is really poor. So I believe in organic structures, that you will come to the platform for a specific use case and value. Many people would tell you, even if they could just create a platform that does 2% of Facebook. Facebook today has 2 billion people on the platform with hundreds of billions of dollars. So even if you did 0.5% or 1%, you'd be a billionaire, right? You have to create platforms where there's a need. You don't just create another platform as an alternative to what is currently out there. I use Facebook and WhatsApp. Facebook for interacting with my friends and family on social media, WhatsApp to interact from a messaging point of view, YouTube for videos, Twitter for microblogging. There is a reason why we use these platforms. We don't use 3 platforms for the same thing. So GovChat was created specifically to engage citizens with government. There's no other reason for it. But more importantly, I wanted to create a platform that is used by the domestic worker, is used by the gardener. And today I can tell you, because my mom's domestic was able to tell me that she got a SRD grant through my platform. And her friends that are domestic workers as well. When we did a test around the data on GovChat with Stats SA, because we're planning to assist with the census for next year by counting 59 million people, we needed to understand in how many households are we in this country. And we did a test and we found out that we are in more than 1.1 million households in this country. We were able to map that out. That's significant. Without any marketing. So I believe that if you do and create a platform that has the ability to grow organically, then you've done something well. Without need, marketing is very important. My friend will tell you here that, you know, if you look at big financial services companies, they have big marketing budgets. And there's a need for it. People need to understand what's out there from because of financial inclusion, literacy, financial empowerment. Those are important things. But how better when it's organic? And so I believe that if you create something where there's a need, there's not much marketing that's needed. Word of mouth, those type of things are very, very, very powerful. And so I guess we are in majority of the households in this country by people that need it most. It might not be in every household, but it is used by those that need the assistance of the South African government, those that are in distress. I will also say, when we did a report to the presidency and to the Statistician General and to the SARS Commissioner about the SRD grant, I'm able to know what mobile phone you have when you're applying for a SRD grant. And 77,000 people applying for 350 Rand from the South African government has an iPhone 10. What does that say? There's three things. One could be that it's a group of stolen phones, which is I doubt. iPhone, I really doubt. The second option could be that we have a group of previously middle-class people, because of COVID, now is in distress. Or it could be a bunch of people that is living above their means. I'd like to go for the second option. I think that there are many middle-class people currently is in distress and need help from the South African government. Even though they have an iPhone, they still need help because their situation has changed. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Aldred.
Thank you.
Hi, thanks for taking my question. Listening to you speak about Facebook and the marketing tools that they use and things, and hearing you speak about SASA and how people are able to apply, those are amazing positives. How do you overcome the security of people's highly sensitive data when you're doing those transactions on a US-based company who is known to use data for marketing? And is there a plan in the future to look at maybe a data warehouse within locally, and where we can invest in the users of GovChat as a government app instead of being something that's going through Facebook, which is WhatsApp?
Sure. That is a beautiful question. The messaging within GovChat currently is encrypted, so it can't be intercepted through a third party. What we've also made sure about is the sensitive data. So first of all, within WhatsApp, they have a term of service that doesn't allow for you to access what we call personal identifiable information, so your ID number. We're not allowed to get your ID number through the WhatsApp channel. So what we did was, for the SRD grant, was we get information that's very general, but when we need a citizen to complete the application, we divert them to a secure form portal, which is a secure website, where we do ID verification, and where we're able to basically tell you that Alberto Jordan, based on this ID, is who he says he is, in a secure manner. The data is housed in South Africa through AWS at the data center in Cape Town, which was just launched a few months ago. The security data privacy contracts between GovChat and the South African government is very, very strict. As you know, when you apply for a grant, we need the permission of the citizen to do those checks. So things, new legislation like POPI or PIA, we have to comply with. And so we do get that permission from citizens. They have to agree to those terms before we take them through the entire process. So I believe that we are doing the right thing from a regulatory point of view and from a legislative point of view, and that everything is done in South Africa. To your second part of the question around an alternate to WhatsApp, I think WhatsApp is a great channel to use because if I look at in a South African context, there are possibly about 20 million people in South Africa that has WhatsApp. So it's a very important channel. But I can tell you that the South African government is looking at alternative channels to WhatsApp for various reasons. Okay? But I think that there is a place for WhatsApp in this country. I'm going to give you a bit of my vision on where I think GovChat should be going, specifically because it deals with a lot of data. More importantly, it deals with sensitive data like citizen data and government data. I believe that GovChat should be owned by the citizens of this country and by government. And hopefully soon that vision will be realized. But the citizen actually the data subject here is the citizen. The citizen is the owner of that ID, not the South African government. And so it's important for you to dictate what your data is used for and how it's used and for how long it's used. So that's a bit about my vision, and hopefully it will be realized soon. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you so much. A question from online that says, online teaching and learning is taking off in a big way, with many players jumping on the bandwagon. What advice would you give to those of us who want to be the front runners, in this highly competitive space?
I can only talk from personal experience. My daughter has been homeschooled for the entire lockdown period using online learning. It's changed the game completely. She's more focused. There's no distraction in class with her, I'd like to call them fellow students or colleagues. There's a lot more focus between her and the teacher on the other end. There's no distraction. Again, I think for those of you that want to be part of that value chain of online education, again, is to understand what is the access point, because not everyone has a tablet. Not everyone has access to data. Everyone has this thing, this phone. So again, think about how do students access the technology and the online learning? For me, that would be the first step. I think that there's a massive space for online learning, and I think that it could be a massive success story, especially in an African continent context, where there is a massive need for education and teaching. Around the world, it is a standard, right? You can get your master's degree online now. You don't need to come in. And so I think that South Africa and the African continent needs to use those, but it needs to address more urgent challenges like connectivity, spectrum, access to data first before we can address the issue around online learning. Because it's great in the private schools where there's access, But in majority of public schools, it's a big, big challenge. So I think addressing things like, and luckily the South African government is having that spectrum allocation early next year, and hopefully that's going to make it a lot easier for communities to have access to data and to internet connectivity. Thank you.
Thank you. A question from in the room?
Congratulations, Alden. Takes me back to our conversations 4 or 5 years back. A job well done. I think the gorilla in the room, in my opinion, and you're so right that it should be a tripartite solve between public, private, and government. How are you going to deal with the cost of data? Because for us, I think that is the big challenge that we sit with. We do know that there's great programs like yourself that's out there, but when it comes, and you're so right that people spend millions on applications and developing that, but the take-up and the usage of that it's a miss. So how do we, and what in my humble opinion and my research that in the findings that we made is that it's about the cost of data. So how do you envisage in bridging that gap as we move forward into the future?
Sorry, before you answer that question, if I could just add to that another similar or linked question that came through online is, what is government's role within this space?
Sure. I think government has a very important role. Government is the provider of spectrum that allows for you to access data, for mobile networks to offer data to its citizens or to its clients. Now, the auctioning of spectrum next year is going to make it possible for data to be a lot cheaper. So that's going to be my answer to your question. I'm going to put a spin on it. And I'm going to advise the South African government, if you are listening. You currently, through regulation, have the power to make 10111 free, whether you have a SIM card or not, correct? Why can there not be government services that is like a 10333 that doesn't need access to a SIM card or to data? So again, it's in the hands of the government to be able to do, specifically when it comes to essential government services. There shouldn't be a cost for citizens to engage with government. And there shouldn't be a cost for government to engage back with citizens. But I also believe that it's in their control to make that happen. And so, again, they are on the move to the right thing by being able to ask various mobile operating networks to zero rate various education platforms, various social services platforms, various websites. And so I think that the more that they do that for essential services, I think is going to address the cost of data issue. But for those that are wanting to surf the net, around research and all of those type of things, I believe that the spectrum allocation for early next year is going to solve a lot of the data challenges that South Africans have. And the mobile operator networks are just waiting for that so that they can make it cheaper. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would just like to check. We've got another question from in the room.
I've got 5 minutes, so if that is okay, I'm going to take that question. I am speaking at Africa Tech virtually, I think at 1, so I still need to sign in. But I'm going to be around here at least until 2 o'clock this afternoon. Sure.
I'll make it very quick. So trust is a big issue, and trust with the South African government is a big issue. When people see your tech, they see the South African government. With trust at a bit of a, I don't know if it's a bit over-exaggerated to say it is all-time low, specifically within government, how do you get people to trust the tech which they see as government?
I think, that's a great question. I think that when you are able to create a platform that addresses the concern of the citizen, and not just addresses it in whereby we come as government and we listen to you, but that we actually act, I think will reinstill confidence back into the citizens of this country. And so when you apply for a grant and you actually get that grant through the platform, there's trust. When I am able to ask a question and there's a response, there's trust. Agreed. People will come and say, go to GovChat because the response is there. Even though it's done through a chatbot, but at least I'm getting a response to understand what the issue is and how it can be addressed. Right? So when your technology is able to address a challenge of a citizen, that tick box is then answered. But when you create processes for the sake of processes, you're going to frustrate citizens. So I always wanted to make sure that I don't become a platform like Hello Peter, that is a rant platform. All the features on GovChat has been built in partnership with GovChat. Our technology is not like many technologies out there where big corporates come and they develop technology and they dump it on government to say, use this technology. We built it in partnership with government, and so that is why every feature is used on the platform. And it is well received by government because finally government is also being heard. You must remember that government is people like you and me. It's not just an institution that wake up with the same socioeconomic conditions that you and I wake up with. Don't forget that. It's an institution made up of people. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aldred, and to everyone who took the questions. I would like to call on Noel Daniels to close the session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aldred. That was very, very insightful. I think I need to use the other mic, so if you take it here. As I said, thanks very much, Aldred. That was very insightful input, and I think a real fitting way to launch our Reclaiming Agency series. It's reclaiming the access that we need to technology for the greater good. And I think your emphasis on purpose as individuals and as a collective is really what should be the driving force to make us want to change the world into a better place for all. And you really, really set the tone for that discussion. As you see, we are learning how to operate in this hybrid space. I think there was a level of comfort almost when we used the Zoom session and we were in the safety of the screen between ourselves and our viewers. Now we're also taking the opportunity to actually connect to other human beings in a space like this. So I think, it's quite an interesting experience for us. We ask you to tune into the next session, which starts at 3 o'clock. And that one will focus on leadership in education. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you to Aldred. Can I ask the audience here to give Aldred a round of applause? Thank you so much. And goodbye, everybody. See you at 3 o'clock.